These are tenant questions I get asked all the time. First and foremost is rent control and what rent control is. So in Ontario, if a unit was first occupied after November 15th, 2018, it is not subject to rent control. If it was first occupied before November 15th, 2018, then it is subject to rent control. And that means that your landlord can only raise the rent by the legislated amount set for that year. For 2023, it's 2.5% to give you an idea of how much that amount usually is. Now, a lot of people get confused about what occupancy means, and they think it means when they first occupied the unit, but it actually means when anyone first occupied it. So typically when we're talking about units that were first occupied after November 2018, that's usually new construction condos. Sometimes it's a new construction home, but the vast majority of it is new construction condominiums where nobody has lived there prior to November 2018. Now, regardless of either situations, whether you're rent controlled or not rent controlled, your landlord has to give you 90 days notice before the rental increase takes effect. This is also only after your lease period. So if, for example, you rented a unit April 1st, 2022, you will not have to pay that rental increase until April 1st, 2023, and you have to have received 90 days notice prior to that for either situation. Now, another question I get asked all the time is, how much notice do I need to give? So you want to leave your unit, you found something better, maybe you're moving for work or school or whatever it may be, you want to leave. How much notice do you need to give? So while you're in that lease period, you actually can't leave early. You are legally obligated to fulfill the terms of that lease. However, there are some exceptions that a landlord may agree, and you guys may mutually agree on what the terms of being released early from that lease contract would look like. But that's a separate issue that we could talk about for your individual situation. Other than that, you would need to provide 60 days notice. So again, in the example of an April 1st lease, you would need to provide notice by January 31st at the absolute latest if you wanted to leave at the earliest possible date that you could. After that, once you're month to month, you still need to provide 60 days notice. So rule of thumb, 60 days all the time, and you need to fill the obligation of your lease. The other question I get asked all the time is which deposits are allowed and not allowed. I see all kinds of things in leases, and what's legally allowed in Ontario is first and last month's rent as a deposit and a key deposit. So the key deposit really is supposed to be a reasonable replacement cost of the keys. By no means should it be $2,000 to $3,000 or some kind of insane thing. There really shouldn't be any cleaning deposits, pet deposits, anything like that is not allowed. It's supposed to be first and last month's rent and reasonable replacement of the keys. And in the case of the keys, you would of course get that money back at the end of your lease once you exchange the keys. And the last question I get asked all the time is maintenance and repairs. Who is responsible for maintenance and repairs in the unit? The vast majority of maintenance and repairs is the responsibility of the landlord, with the exception of when a tenant has willful and negligent damage to a particular unit or appliance or whatever it may be. That's the language that's used, so it would have to be proved that you were willful and negligent with this particular item. But other than that, landlords are responsible for things like plumbing and appliances and the big cost items, and tenants are more responsible for light bulbs, really minor things that's just more day-to-day upkeep of the unit. So if you have any questions at all about your particular situation, or you just want to know more about your rights as a tenant, please feel free to reach out anytime.